梁歌制作，丰收，作者叶子。第一章，时间是快要到清明节了，天下着雨，阴沉沉的，没有一点晴和的征兆。云朴书坐在曹氏家祠的大门口，还穿着过冬天的那件破旧棉袍。
Production by Liang Gu, Harvest, author, Yi Zi. Chapter 1. It's almost Qingming Festival. It was raining and gloomy, with no sign of sunshine. Uncle Yunpu was sitting at the gate of the Chao family ancestral hall, still wearing the shabby cotton robe he had worn in winter.
身子微微颤动，像是耐不住这袭人的寒气。他抬头望了一望天，嘴边不知道念了几句什么话，又低了下去。胡须上倒悬着一线一线的，迎风飘动，刚刚用手抹去，随即又流出了几线来。
His body was shaking slightly, as if he couldn't bear the chill. He looked up at the sky, muttered a few words, and then lowered his voice. There were strands hanging upside down on his beard, fluttering in the wind. Just as he wiped them away with his hands, a few more strands flowed out.
难道再要和去年一样吗？我的天啊！他低声地说了这么一句，便回头反望着坐在戏台下的妻子，很迟疑地说着：“秋儿的娘呀，惊蛰一过，棉裤脱落，现在快清明了，还脱不下袍。这
Is it going to be the same as last year? OMG. He said this in a low voice, then turned back to look at his wife sitting under the stage, and said hesitantly, Chior's mother. As soon as the awakening of insects is over, the cotton pants fall off. It's almost Qingming Festival now, and I still can't take off my robe. This.
莫非是又要和去年一样吗？云仆婶没有回答，在忙着给怀中的四喜儿喂奶。天气也真太使人着急了，立春后一连下了30多天雨，没有停住过，人们都感受着深沉的恐怖。
Is it going to be the same as last year? Aunt Yunpu didn't answer, and was busy feeding Si Sheer in her armstot. The weather was really worrying. It rained for more than 30 days in a row after the beginning of spring, and it didn't stop. People they all felt deep terror.
往常都是这样，春分起冷，一定又是一个大水年岁。天啦，又是一样。云朴书又掉头望着天，将手中的一根旱烟管不住地在石阶级上磕动。该不会吧？云朴婶歇了半天功夫。
It's always like this. The spring equinox is extremely cold, so it must be another flood year. Oh my God. If it's the same again. Uncle Yunpu turned around and looked at the sky again, tapping a dry pipe in his hand on the stone steps. That's right. Aunt Yunpu rested for a long time.
随便地说着，脸还是朝着怀中的孩子。怎么不会呢？春分过了，还有这样的寒。庚午年、甲子年、丙寅年的春天，不都是有这样冷吗？况且今年的天老爷是要大收人的。
He said casually, his face still facing the child in his arms. Why not? It's just after the spring equinox, and it's still so cold. Aren't the springs of the Zhenggu, Jiazi, and Bingyin years always so cold? Besides, God is going to have a lot of people this year.
云朴书反对妻子的那种随便的答复，好像今年的命运已经早在这儿补定了一般。关帝爷爷的灵签上曾明白地说过了，今年的人一定是要死去6、7成的。
Uncle Yunpu objected to his wife's casual reply, as if this year's fate had already been decided here. Grandpa Guandi's spiritual lottery clearly stated, 60% to 70% of people will die this year.
烙印的云朴书脑筋中的许多痛苦的印象凑成了那些恐怖的因子。他记得甲子年他吃过野菜拌山芋，一天只能捞到1顿；乙丑年刚刚好一点，丙寅年又喊吃树根。
The many painful impressions in Uncle Yunpu's mind combined to create those terrifying factors. He remembered, in the Jiazi year, he ate wild vegetables mixed with potatoes, but he could only get 1 meal a day. The year of Icho was just a little better, and the year of Bingyin was called eating tree roots again.
庚午辛未年他还年少，好像并不十分痛苦。只有去年，我的天呀！云朴书简直是不能作想啊！去年云朴书一家有8口人吃茶饭，今年就只剩了6个，除了云朴婶外，大儿子立秋20岁。
He was still young in the Zhenggu and Sinwei years, and he didn't seem to be in great pain. Only last year, oh my God. Uncle Yunpu simply can't think. Last year, there were 8 people in Uncle Yunpu's family eating and drinking, but this year there are only 6 left, except Aunt Yunpu. The eldest son Liqiu is 20 years old.
这是云朴书的左右手，二儿子少普14岁，也已经开始在田里和云朴书帮忙。女儿英英10岁，她能跟着妈妈打斗笠。最小的一个便是四喜儿，还在吃奶。云朴爷爷和一个6岁的伙。
This is Uncle Yunpu's right-hand man. The second son, Xiaopu, is 14 years old and has already started helping Uncle Yunpu in the fields. My daughter Yingying is 10 years old and she can follow her mother in playing bamboo hats. The youngest one is Si Sheer, who is still nursing. This is Uncle Yunpu's right-hand man. The second son, Xiaopu, is 14 years old and has already started helping Uncle Yunpu in the fields. My daughter Yingying is 10 years old and she can follow her mother in playing bamboo hats. The youngest one is Si Sheer, who is still nursing Grandpa Yunpu and a 6-year-old Hewer.
是去年8月吃观音粉一吃死的。观音粉，一种白色的细泥土。原著：这样一个热闹的家庭中，吃呆饭的人一个也没有，谁不说云朴叔会发财呢？是的，云朴叔原是应该发财的人。
I died from eating guanine powder in August last year. Guanine powder, a kind of white fine soil. Original note. In such a lively family, there is no idle person. Who doesn't think that Uncle Yunpu will make a fortune? Yes, Uncle Yunpu is the one who should get rich.
就因为运气太不好了，连年的冰灾水旱才把他压得抬不起头来，不然他也不会那么视若于人力。去年，这可怕的去年了，云朴叔自己也如同过着梦境一样，为了连年的冰灾水旱。
It was just because of his bad luck that he could not lift his head due to years of military disasters, floods and droughts. Otherwise, he wouldn't show weakness to others like that. Last year, this terrible last year, Uncle Yunpu himself seemed to be living a dream. For the years of war, floods and drought.
他不得不拼命地加种了河八爷7亩田，稀土有个转运，自己家里有人手，多种1亩田就多1亩田的好处。除那去河八爷的租谷以外，多少总还有几粒好捞的，能吃1-2年饱饭。
He had to work hard to plant 7 more acres of Hebei's land, hoping to make a fortune. If you have a manpower in your family, if you plant an acre of land, you will get the benefit of an additional acre of land. In addition to taking in the rented grain from Hebei, there will always be a few grains that can be harvested. You can have enough to eat for a year or two.
还怕弄不发财吗？主意打定后，云朴叔就卖掉了自己仅有的一所屋子来租河八爷的田种。2月里，云朴叔全家搬进到这祠堂里来了，替祖宗打扫灵牌。春秋2季还有一串钱的赏格。
Are you still worried about not getting rich? After making up his mind, Uncle Yunpu sold his only house to rent Hebei's farm. In February, Uncle Yunpu's family moved into this ancestral hall, cleaned the spiritual tablets for the ancestors, and received a bunch of money rewards for the spring and autumn festival.
自家的屋子也是由河八爷承受的，7亩田的租谷仍照旧归3期开，云朴叔能有3成好到手，便算很不错的。起先真使云朴叔欢喜，虽然和儿子费了很多力气，然而禾苗很好。
Hebei is also responsible for his own house. The rent for the 7 acres of land is still the same as before, with a yield of 30% to 70%. Uncle Yunpu can get 30% of the land, which is considered very good. At first, it really made Uncle Yunpu happy. Although my son and I put in a lot of effort, the seedlings were very good.
雨水也即调和，只要照福得法，收获下来，便什么都不成问题了。看看它，禾苗都发了根，长了苞，很快的便标现了。再刮2-3日老南风，就可以看到黄金色的谷子摆在眼前。
The rainwater is also very harmonious. As long as it is properly managed and harvested, nothing will be a problem. Look at him, the seedlings have sprouted roots and buds, and they will soon be marked. If the old south wind blows for 2 or 3 days, you can see the golden millet in front of you.
云朴叔真是喜欢啊，这不是他日夜辛劳的代价吗？标现极道的穗子从荷包中长出来。原著，他几乎欢喜地发跳起来。就在他将要发跳的第2天里，天老爷忽然翻了脸。
Uncle Yunpu really likes it. Isn't this the price of his hard work day and night? Marking line, that is, the ears of rice grow out of the buds. Original note. He almost jumped for joy. Just the day after he was about to jump for joy, God suddenly turned his face.
但大的雨点由西南方直向这垄上扑来，只有半天功夫，池塘里的水都起膨胀。云朴叔立刻就感受着有些不安似的，恐怕这好好的稻花都要被雨点打落，而影响到收成的步风。午后
egg-sized raindrops came straight towards the ridge from the southwest. In just half a day, the water in the pond swelled. Uncle Yunpu immediately felt a little uneasy. He was afraid that all the good rice flowers would be knocked down by the raindrops, which would affect the harvest. Afternoon.
雨渐渐地停住了，云朴叔的心中像放落一副千斤担子般的轻快。傍晚上，天上忽然黑得伸手看不见自家的拳头，四面的锣声像雷一般的轰着，人声一片一片的喧嚷奔驰。
The rain gradually stopped, and Uncle Yunpu's heart felt as light as if a heavy burden had been let go. In the middle of the night, the sky suddenly became so dark that I couldn't see my fists with my hands outstretched. The sound of gongs in all directions sounded like thunder, and the voices of people were shouting and galloping one after another.
风刮得呼呼的叫吼，云朴叔知道又是外面发生了什么意外的事变，急急忙忙地叫起了立秋，由黑暗中向着锣声的响处飞跑。路上，云朴叔到了小2八子。
The wind howled loudly. Uncle Yunpu knew that something unexpected had happened outside, so he hurriedly called Li Qiu'er and ran towards the sound of the gong in the darkness. On the way, Uncle Yunpu came to shower Skartsi.
知道溪水和南水一起暴涨了3丈多，曹家垄四围的堤口都危险的厉害。罗生是喊动大家去挡堤的。云普叔吃了一惊，黑夜里都涨几只水是40-50年来少见的怪事。他慌了张。
Knowing that the water in the west and the south have both surged by more than 3 feet, the embankments around Kao Jialong are extremely dangerous, and the sound of the gong is calling everyone to block the embankments. Uncle Yunpu was surprised. The water suddenly rose several times in the dark night, which was a strange thing that had not been seen in 40 or 50 years. He panicked.
罗生越想越厉害，他的脚步也越加乱了。天黑路滑，跌倒了又爬起来。最后是立秋扶住他跑的，还不到3步，就听到一声天崩地裂的震响，云普叔的脚像弹棉花絮一般颤动起来。很快的
The sound of the gong became louder and louder, and his steps became more chaotic. It was dark and the road was slippery, so I fell down and got up again. In the end, it was Li Qiu who supported him and ran. Before he had even taken 3 steps, he heard a loud cracking sound, and Uncle Yunpu's feet started to move like cotton wool. Very quickly.
如万马奔驰般的浪涛向他们扑来了。立秋急急地背起云普叔，反身就逃。刚才回奔到自己的头门口，谁已经流到了阶下。新渡口的堤溃开了30几丈宽一个角。
The waves, like thousands of horses galloping, rushed toward them. Li Qiu hurriedly carried Uncle Yunpu on his back and ran away. Just now when I ran back to the door of my head, the water had already flowed to the bottom of the steps. The embankment of the new ferry collapsed and was more than 30 feet wide.
曹家垄满丸子的黄金都化成了水，于是云普叔发了疯。半年辛辛苦苦的希望，一家生命的泉源，都在这一刹那间被水冲毁得干干净净了。他中天的狂呼着：“天哪！”
The gold in Kao Jialong turned into water. So Uncle Yunpu went crazy. Half a year of hard work and hope, the source of a family's life, were completely washed away by water in this moment. He shouted wildly all day long. Oh my God!
我粒粒的黄金都化成了水。现在云普叔又见到了这样稀奇的征兆，他怎么不心急呢？去年5月到现在，他还没有吃饱过一顿干饭。6月初水就退了，垄上的饥民想联合出门去淘米。
Every particle of gold in me has turned into water. Now, Uncle Yunpu has seen such strange signs again. Why is he not anxious? Until May last year, he has not had a full meal. The water receded in early June, and the hungry people on the ridge I want to go out together to beg for rice.
刚刚走到宁乡，就被认作了乱党赶出境来，以后就半步大门都不许出。县城里据说领了3万洋钱的赈款，乡下没有看见发下1颗米花。何八爷从省里贩了70担大豆子回陇济济。
As soon as he arrived in Ningxiang, he was regarded as a rebel and was kicked out of the country. From now on, he was not allowed to leave the gate even half a step. It is said that in the county town, a relief fund of 30,000 foreign dollars was received, but not a single rice flour was seen in the countryside. Hebei sold 70 loads of soybeans from the province and brought them back to the ridge to provide relief.
云普叔只借到5斗，价钱是6块3，月息4分5。一家有8口人，后来连青草都吃光了，实在不能再挨下去，才跪在何八爷面前加借了3斗豆子。8月里，画家堤决出了观音粉。
Uncle Yunpu only borrowed 5 buckets. The price was 63 yuan, and the monthly interest was 4.5 cents. There were 8 people in the family. Later, they even ate all the grass. They couldn't bear it any longer, so they knelt down in front of Mr. Heba and borrowed 3 more buckets of beans. In August, guanine powder was excavated in Huajiadi.
垄上的人都争先恐后的跑去挖来吃，云普叔带着立秋挖了2-3担回来，吃不到2天，云普爷爷升天了，临走还带去了一个6岁的伙。后来，垄上的饥民都走到死亡线上了。
People on the ridge rushed to dig and eat. Uncle Yunpu brought 2 or 3 loads back from Liqiu. Within 2 days of eating, Grandpa Yunpu ascended to heaven, and before leaving, he took a 6-year-old tiger with him. Later, all the hungry people on the ridge were on the verge of death.
才由何八爷代替饥民向县太爷担保不会变乱党，再三的求了几张护照，分途逃出境来。云普叔一家被送到一个热闹的城里，过了4个月的饥民生活，年底才回家来。这都是去年了。哭。
Only then did Hebei, on behalf of the hungry people, promise to the county magistrate that he would not betray the party, repeatedly asked for several passports, and escaped out of the country in separate ways. Uncle Yunpu's family was sent to a lively city and lived as hungry people for 4 months before returning home at the end of the year. This was all last year. Bitter.
又有谁能知道呢？这时候，垄上的人都靠着临时编些斗笠过活。下雨，一天每人能编10只斗笠，就可以捞到2顿稀饭钱。云普叔和立秋剖面， 少普、云普婶和英英日夜不停地赶着编呀。
Who can know? At this time, people on the ridge lived by making up some improvised bamboo hats. If it rains, if each person can weave 10 bamboo hats a day, they can earn money for 2 meals of rice porridge. Uncle Yunpu and Li Qiu fell in love with each other. Xiaopu, Aunt Yunpu, and Yingying worked day and night to make up the story. Make it up.
尽量的编呀，不编有什么办法呢？只要是有命挨到秋收，春雨一连下了30多天了，天气又寒冷的这么厉害，满垄上的人都怀着一种同样恐怖的心境。偏了。
Make it up as much as you can. What can I do if I don't make it up? As long as you have the chance to wait until the autumn harvest. The spring rain has been falling for more than 30 days in a row, and the weather is so cold that everyone on the ridge has the same terrifying state of mind. Oh my God.
今年难道又要和去年一样吗？第2章，天毕竟是金糊了，人们从蛰伏了30多天的阴郁底屋子里爬出来，菜青色的脸庞都挂上了新欢的微笑，孩子们一件一半地跑来跑去。
Will this year be the same as last year? Chapter 2. The sky is finally getting warmer, and people are crawling out of the gloomy houses where they have been dormant for more than 30 days. The green faces are all covered with joyful smiles. Children, they were running around together.
赤着脚在太阳底下踏着软泥耍着，水泉是那样满满的，无论池塘里、田中或是湖上，遍地都长满了嫩草，没有晒干的雨点挂在草叶上，像一颗一颗的小银珠。杨柳发芽了。
Barefoot playing in the soft mud under the sun. The water is always so full, no matter in the pond, in the field or on the lake. The ground is covered with young grass, and unsun-dried raindrops hang on the grass blades, like small silver beads. The willows are sprouting.
在久雨初晴的春色中，这垄上是一切都有了新兴开展的气象，人们立时开始喧嚷着，活跃着。展眼望去，天气上时常有赤脚来往的人群徘徊观望，3个5个一伙的。
In the spring scenery after a long rain, everything on this ridge is flourishing. People immediately began to be noisy and active. Looking around, there are often barefooted people walking around in the fields, wandering and watching, groups of 3 or 5.
指指池塘，又查查决口，谈这谈那，都准备着，计划着，应该如何动手做他们在这个时节里的功夫。陡立的销路突然的阻塞了，为了到处都天晴，男子们白天不能在家里刮面。
Pointing at the pond and checking the crevices, talking about this and that, they were all preparing and planning how to carry out their work in the season. The sales of bamboo hats were suddenly blocked, so that the weather was clear everywhere. Men cannot shave at home during the day.
妇人和孩子的工作也无形中松散下来，生活的紧箍咒随即把这整个的农村牢牢地套住。努力的下田去工作吧，工作时员不能不吃饭啊！阵日祈祷着天晴的云朴书。
The work of women and children also invisibly loosened up, and the curse of life immediately tightened its grip on the entire countryside. Go to the fields and work hard. You have to eat while working. Uncle Yunpu prays for sunny weather all day long.
他的目的总算是达到了。然而微笑是很吝啬的，只在他的脸上轻轻地拂了一下，便随着紧蹙的眉间消逝了。棉袍还是不能脱下，太阳晒在他的身上，只有那么一点辣辣的难熬。
His goal was finally achieved. However, the smile was very stingy and only flicked lightly on his face, and then disappeared along with the frown. He still couldn't take off his cotton robe, and the sun was shining on his body, which was only a little bit unbearable.
他没有放在心上，他只是担心着怎样的才能够度过这紧急的难关，饱饱的捞2餐白米饭吃了，补一补精神，好到田中去。陡立的销路没有了，眼前的稀饭就起了巨大的恐慌。
He didn't take it to heart. He was just worried about how he could get through this urgent crisis, to eat 2 full meals of white rice to replenish his energy so that he could go to the fields. The sales of bamboo hats were gone, and the porridge in front of them became a huge panic.
于是云朴书更加焦急，他知道他的命苦，生下来就没有过一时舒服的生涯。今年50岁了，苦头总算吃过不少，好的日子却还没有看见过。算八字的先生都说，他的老晚景很好。
So Uncle Yunpu became even more anxious. He knew that his life was hard and he had never had a comfortable life since he was born. I am 50 years old this year. I have finally experienced a lot of hardships, but I have not seen the good days yet. The horoscope tellers all said, he has a good old age.
然而那是55岁以后的事情，他总不能十分相信。2个儿子又都不懂事，处在这样大结束的年头，要独立支持这么一家6口，那是如何困难的事情啊！总得想个办法了。
However, that happened after the age of 55, and he couldn't quite believe it. The 2 sons are both ignorant. In such a critical age, how difficult it is to independently support such a family of 6. We have to find a way.
云朴说从来没有自馁过，每到了这样的难关， 他就把这句话不住地在自己的脑际里打摩旋，有时竟能想到一些很好的办法。今天他知道这个难关更紧了。
Uncle Yunpu had never been discouraged. Whenever he faced such a difficult situation, he kept thinking about this sentence in his mind, and sometimes he could think of some good solutions. Today, he knew that the difficulty was getting tighter.
于是又把这句话运用到脑里去旋转。何八爷、李三爷、陈老爷，他一步一步地在戏台下踱来踱去，这些人的影子一个个地浮上他的脑中。然而，那都是一些极难看的面孔。
So I put this sentence into my mind and started spinning it. Master He, Master Li, Master Chen. He walked back and forth under the stage step by step, and the shadows of these people came to his mind one by one. But those are some extremely ugly faces.
每一个都会使他感受到异样的不安和恐惧，他只好摇头叹气地把这些人统统丢开，将念头转向另一方面去。猛然的，他却想到了一个例外的人，立秋。
Each one makes him feel strangely uneasy and frightened. He had no choice but to shake his head and sigh, throwing away all these people and turning his thoughts to the other side. Suddenly, he thought of an exception. Beginning of autumn.
他现在就跑到玉武叔家中去看看好吗？去做什么呢，爹？立秋坐在门槛边剖面，漫无意识地反问他。明天的日角很好了，人家都准备下田了，我们也应当跟着动手。头一天做功夫。
Can he go to Uncle Yu's house now and take a look? What are you going to do, Dad? Beginning of autumn sat at the threshold and asked him unconsciously. Tomorrow will be a good day. Everyone is getting ready to go to the fields, and we should follow suit. Work hard on the first day.
总得饱饱吃一餐，照头来能好一些，做起功夫来也比较起劲。家里现在已经没有了米，所以我看玉武叔也不见得有办法吧。那么你去看看也不要紧的喽，这又何必空跑一趟呢？
You have to have a full meal. The sign will be better and you will be more energetic when working hard. There is no rice at home now, so I don't think Uncle Yu can do anything about it. Then, it doesn't matter if you go and take a look, Lu. Why bother with this trip?
我看他们的情形也并不见得比我们要好。你总欢喜和老子对来，你能知道他们和我们一样吗？我是叫你去一趟呀，这是实在的事实啊。爹，他们恐怕比我们还要困难哩。废话。
I think their situation is not necessarily better than ours. You are always happy to be with me. Did you know they are just like us? I asked you to go. I think their situation is not necessarily better than ours. You are always happy to be with me. Did you know they are just like us? I asked you to go there. This is a real fact. Dad, I'm afraid they are in more difficulty than us. Nonsense.
近来云普叔常常会觉得自己的儿子变差了，什么事情都欢喜和他抬杠。为了家中的一些琐事，不知道发生过多少次局语。儿子总是那样懒懒的不肯做事，有时候简直是个忤逆的。
Recently, Uncle Yunpu often feels that his son has become worse, and he is happy to argue with him about everything. I don't know how many times there have been disagreements over trivial matters at home. My son is always so lazy and unwilling to do things, and sometimes he is simply rebellious.
不孝的东西，玉武叔的家中并不见得会和自己一般的没有办法，因为除了玉武神以外，玉武叔的家中没有第三个要吃闲饭的人。去年全陇上的灾民都出去逃难了。
Unfilial thing. Uncle Yu's family may not be as helpless as his own. Because except for Aunt Yu, there is no third person in Uncle Yu's family who wants to make a living. Last year, all the victims of the disaster fled.
王五叔就没有同去，独自不动地支持了一家两口的生存，而且也从来没有看见他向人家借贷过。大前天在渡口上曹炳生生肉铺门前，还看见了他提着一只篮子买了一点酒肉。
Uncle Wang Wu did not go with him and supported the survival of the family alone. Moreover, I have never seen him borrow money from anyone. The day before yesterday, I saw Chao Bingxing in front of Chao Bingxing's raw meat shop on the ferry, carrying a basket and buying some wine and meat.
摇头晃脑的过身，他怎么会没有办法呢？于是云普叔知道了，这一定又是儿子发了懒筋，不肯听信自己的吩咐，不由得心头冒出火来。你到底去不去呢？狗养的东西。
He turned around shaking his head. Why can't he do anything? So Uncle Yunpu knew that his son must have become lazy again and refused to listen to his instructions, and he couldn't help but feel angry. Are you going or not? What a bastard.
你总喜欢和老子对来，去也是没有办法了。老子要你去就去，不许你说这些废话，狗入的。立秋抬起头来，将灭刀轻轻放下，年轻人的一颗心里蕴藏着深沉的隐痛。
You always like to confront me. There is no other way to go. Go if I want you to. You are not allowed to talk nonsense like this, it's for dogs. Li Qiu raised his head and gently put down his sword. There was a deep pain in the young man's heart.
他不忍多看父亲焦急的面容，回转身子来就走。你说我爹爹叫我来的，多少请玉五叔帮忙一点。过了这一个难关之后，随即就替五叔送话来。月亮刚从树丫里钻出了半边面孔来。
He couldn't bear to look at his father's anxious face any longer, so he turned around and left. You said, my father asked me to come here, and I asked Uncle Yu to help me. After getting over this difficulty, I immediately returned it for Uncle Wu. The moon had just emerged half of its face from the tree branches.
一霎又被乌云吞没，没有一颗星，四周黑得像一块漆板。玉五叔怎样回答你的呢？他没有说多的话，他只说，请你致意你的爹爹，真是对不住得很。昨天我们还是吃的老南瓜，今天喽。
In an instant, he was engulfed by dark clouds again. There was no star, and the surrounding area was as black as a paintboard. How did Uncle Yu Wu answer you? He didn't say much. He only said, please pay your respects to your father. I'm really sorry. Yesterday we still had old pumpkin. Today, Lu.
就只有这一点点稀饭了。你没有说过我不久就还他吗？说过了的，他还把他的米桶给我看了，空空的。那么他的女人力没有说话，笑着。妈妈的！云普叔在小桌子上用力地击了一拳。
Just this little porridge. Didn't you say that I would pay him back soon? As I said, he also showed me his rice bucket. Empty. So, who is his woman? Without speaking, he smiled. Moms. Uncle Yunpu punched the small table hard.
随即愤愤地说道：“大前天我还看见了他买肉吃，妈妈的！今天就说没有米了，鬼才相信他。”大家都没有生气，云普婶也围了拢来，孩子们都竖着耳朵听爹爹和哥哥说话。
Then he said angrily, I saw him buying meat the day before yesterday, mothers. If he said there was no rice today, no one would believe him. Everyone was silent. Aunt Yunpu also gathered around, and the children all pricked up their ears to listen to what their father and brother were talking about.
偌大的一所祠堂中，连一颗豆大的灯光都没有，黑暗把大家的心绪胁迫得一阵一阵地往下沉落。那么明天下田又怎么办呢？云普婶也非常担心地问：“妈妈的，只有大家都饿死。”
In such a huge ancestral hall, there is not even a big light. The darkness forced everyone's moods to sink gradually. Then what will we do when we go to the fields tomorrow? Aunt Yunpu also asked very worriedly. Mom, only everyone will starve to death.
这杂种出外跑了这么大半天，连一颗米花都弄不到，叫我又怎么办呢？爹，死，狗入的东西！云普叔狠狠地骂了这句之后，心中立刻就后悔起来。死啊！
This bastard was out running for such a long time and couldn't even get a single rice flour. What if you call me, Dad? Die. What dogs get into? After Uncle Yunpu cursed this harshly, he immediately regretted in his heart, death, ah.
认真的要儿子死了，又有什么办法呢？心中只感到一阵阵酸楚，噗噗的不觉掉下2颗老泪。妈妈的！他顺手摸着了旱烟管，反身朝外就走。到哪儿去呢，老头子？妈妈的！不出去，明天吃土。
What can we do if we seriously want our son to die? I only felt bursts of sadness in my heart, and I shed 2 old tears unconsciously. Moms. He touched the tobacco pipe, turned around and walked out. Where are you going, old man? Mom. If you don't go out and eat dirt tomorrow.
大家用了沉痛的眼光注视着云普叔的背影，渐渐被黑暗吞噬。孩子们渐次的和睡魔接吻了，在后房中像猎狗一般的横七竖八的倒着。堂屋中只剩了云普婶和立秋，在严厉的恐怖中。
Everyone looked at Uncle Yunpu's back with sad eyes, gradually being swallowed up by the darkness. The children began to kiss the Sandman, lying like hounds in the back room. Aunt Yunpu and Li Qiu were the only ones left in the hall, in severe terror.
张大那失去了神光的眼睛，期待着云普叔的好消息回来，心上的弦已经重重地扣紧了。深夜，云普叔带着哭丧的脸色跑回来，从背上卸下来一个小小的包袱。妈妈的！
Zhang Dana's eyes, which had lost their divine light, were looking forward to the return of good news from Uncle Yunpu. The string in my heart has been tightened heavily. Late at night, Uncle Yunpu ran back with a mournful expression on his face and unloaded a small burden from his back. Moms.
这是3块6角钱的蚕豆，6条视线一起投射在这小小的包袱上，发出了几许饥饿的光芒。云普叔的块里还饱藏着一包满满的眼泪。第3章，在田角的决口边。
This is 3 yuan and 6 cents for broad beans. 6 lines of sight were cast on this small bundle, giving off a bit of hungry light. There was still a bag full of tears hidden in Uncle Yunpu's eyes. Chapter 3, At the Edge of the Field Corner.
立秋举着无力的锄头，懒洋洋地挥动。田中过多的水随着锄头的起落，渐渐地由决口溢入池塘。他浑身都觉得酥软，手腕也那样没有力量，往常的勇气现在不知跑到哪里去了。
Licio held up his weak hoe and waved it lazily. The excess water in the field gradually overflowed into the pond from the breach as the hoe rose and fell. His whole body felt weak, and his wrists were so weak. His usual courage had gone somewhere now.
一切都渺茫呀！他怅望着原野，他觉得现在已经不全是要下死力做功夫的时候了，谁也没有方法能够保证这种工作会有良好的效果。历年的天灾人祸。
Everything is slim. He looked sadly at the wilderness. He felt, now is not the time to put in all the hard work. No one can guarantee that this kind of work will have good results. Natural and man-made disasters over the years.
把这颗年轻人的心房刺痛得深深的，眼前的一切太使他感到渺茫了，而他又没有方法能把自己的生活改造，或是跳出这个不幸的圈围。他拖着锄头，迈步移过了第3条决口。
It hurt the young man's heart deeply. Everything in front of him made him feel too fuzzy, and he had no way to transform his life or escape from this unfortunate circle. He dragged his hoe and moved across the 3rd gap.
过去的事件像潮水般的涌上他的心头，每一锄头的落地都像是打在自家的心上。父亲老了，弟妹还是那么年轻。这4、5年来，家中的末路已经成为了如何也不可避免的事实。
Past events flooded into his mind. Every time the hoe hits the ground, it feels like it hits my heart. My father is old, but my siblings are still young. In the past 4 or 5 years, the end of the family has become an inevitable fact.
而出路还是那样的迷茫。他不知道要用什么方法才可以开拓出这条迷茫的出路。无意识的，他又想起不久以前上屋赖大哥对他鬼鬼祟祟说的那些话来。现在如果细细的把它回味。
And the way out is still so confusing. He didn't know what method to use to open up this confusing way out. Unconsciously, he thought of those words that the leprous brother in the room had secretly said to him not long ago. Now if he thought about it carefully.
真有一些说不出来的道理，在这个年头，不靠自己，还有什么人好靠呢？什么人都是穷人的对头，自己不起来干一下子，一辈子也别想出头。而且赖大哥还肯定地说过，不久的事件。
There are some unspeakable truths. In this day and age, if you don't rely on yourself, who else can you rely on? Everyone is the enemy of the poor. If you don't get up and work for a while, you will never get ahead in your life. Moreover, the leprechaun also said with certainty, the world will not be long.
一定是我们穷人的。这样又使立秋回想到4年前农民会当权的盛况。要是再有那样的事件来呀，他微笑了。突然的，有一条人影从他的身边掠过，使他吃了一惊。回头来看
It must be for us poor people. In this way, Licio recalled the grand occasion when the Peasants' Association came to power 4 years ago. What if a world like that comes again? He smiled. Suddenly, a figure passed by him, which surprised him. Looking back.
正是他所系念的上无赖老大。喂，大哥，到哪里去呢？呵，立秋，你们今天也下了田吗？是的，大哥。来，我们谈谈。立秋将锄头停住。你爹爹呢？在那边挑草皮子，还有勺谱。
It was the leprechaun in the upper room that he missed. Hey. Brother, where are you going? Ha. Licio, did you go to the fields today too? Yes, brother. Come, let's talk. The hoe stopped at the beginning of autumn. Where's your dad? There's Xiaopu who's picking the grass over there.
你们这几天怎样过门的呀？还不是苦，今天家里已经没有人编斗笠，我们3个都下田了。昨晚爹爹跑到河坝那里求借了1斗豆子回来，才算是把今天下田的一餐弄饱了，要不然。
How have you been doing these days? It's not bitter. No one at home is knitting bamboo hats today. The 3 of us have gone to the fields. Last night, my father went to Heba and begged to borrow a bushel of beans, so that we could have a meal in the fields today. Be full, otherwise.
还好还好，河巴的豆子还肯借给你们，谁愿意去借他的东西？妈妈的，我爹爹不知道说了多少好话，磕了头，又加了价。哎，大哥，你们呢？一样的不能过门啊！沉静了一刹那。
Okay, okay. Heba beans are still willing to be lent to you. Who wants to borrow his things? Damn it, my dad said so many good things. Kowtow. The price has been increased again. Well. Brother, what about you? You can't pass through the same door. There was silence for a moment.
赖大哥又恢复了他那种经常微笑的面容，向立秋点头了一下。晚上我们再谈吧，立秋。好的。 赖大哥匆匆走后，立秋的锄头仍旧不住地在田边挥动，一条决口又一条决口。
The Lepitic brother returned to his smiling face and nodded to Li Qiu. Let's talk again tonight, beginning of autumn. Okay. After the leper brother left in a hurry, the hoe in beginning of autumn was still waving at the edge of the field, making one break after another.
太阳高高的悬在当空，像是告诉着人们已经到了正午。大半年来不曾听见过的歌声又悠扬地交响着，人们都拖着疲倦的身子回来，很少的屋顶上能有缕缕的炊烟冒出。
The sun hangs high in the sky, as if telling people that it is noon. Songs that had not been heard for more than half a year were symphony melodiously. People were dragging their tired bodies back, and wisps of smoke could be seen rising from the few roofs.
云普叔浑身都发痛了，虽然昨天只调了20-30担草皮子，肩和两腿的骨髓中间像着了无数的针刺，几乎终夜都不能安眠。天亮爬起来，走路还是一阵阵地酸软，然而他还是镇静着。
Uncle Yunpu's whole body ached, even though he only picked 20 or 30 loads of turf yesterday. There were countless needle pricks in the bone marrow between the shoulders and legs, and I couldn't sleep well almost all night long. When I got up at dawn, I still felt sore from time to time while walking. However, he remained calm.
尽量的在装着没事的样子，生怕儿子们看见了气馁。到底老了呀，他暗自的伤心着。立秋从里面捧出2碗仅有的豆子来摆在桌子上，香气把云普叔的口水都馋得欲流出来。
I tried my best to pretend that nothing was wrong, for fear that my sons would be discouraged when they saw it. You are so old after all. He was secretly sad. Li Qiu took out the only 2 bowls of beans and placed them on the table. The aroma made Uncle Yunpu's mouth water with greed.
3个人平均分配，一个只吃了上半碗，味道却比平常的特别好吃。半碗究竟不知道塞在肚皮里的哪一个角角，勉强跑到田中去挣扎了一会儿。
The 3 people shared it equally, and one of them only ate the first half of the bowl, but it tasted much better than usual. Half a bowl, I don't know which corner it is stuffed in my belly. I reluctantly ran to Tianzhong and struggled for a while.
浑身就像驮着千斤闸一般的不能动弹，连一柄锄头、一张锭都提不起来了，眼睛时时欲发昏，世界也像要天旋地围了一样。兜了3个圈子，终于被肚子驱逐回来。这样子下去，怎么得了呢？
My whole body was as if I was carrying 1,000 pounds of brake, unable to move. He couldn't even lift a hoe or a disease, his eyes felt dizzy all the time, and the world seemed to be spinning around him. After going around in circles for 3 times, I was finally driven back by my stomach. What's the point of going on like this?
孩子和大人都挤在一块，大大小小的眼睛里通通冒出血红的火焰来，互相的怅望了一会儿，都觉得没有什么好说的话。天哪！云普叔咬紧牙关，鼓起了最后的勇气来。
Children and adults were all gathered together, with blood-red flames coming out of their eyes, big and small. They looked at each other for a while, feeling that they had nothing to say. Oh my God! Uncle Yunpu gritted his teeth and mustered up his last courage.
又向何八爷的庄上走去。路上，他想定了这一次见了八爷，应当怎样的向他开口，一步一步的打算的妥帖了，然后走进那座庄门。你到底有什么事情呢，云普？八爷坐在太师椅上问。我。
Then he walked towards Hebei's village. On the way, he thought about how he should speak to Master Ba this time when he met him. He planned it step by step, and then walked into the village gate. What's the matter with you, Yunpu? Master Ba asked, sitting on the Taisher chair. I.
我什么？我想再向八爷。豆子吗？那不能再借给你了。陇上这么多人口，我单养你一家，我可以加力还八爷。谁稀罕你的力，人家就没有力吗？那不能行呀，八爷，你老人家总得救救我。
What? I want to ask Master Ba again. Does he? I can't lend it to you anymore. With so many people on the ridge, I can support your family alone. I can repay Master Ba with extra money. Whoever cares about your profit will not benefit others? That can't work. Ba Yi. You old man must save me.
我们一家大小已经。去，我哪里管得了你这许多？去吧，八爷，救救我！云普叔急得哭出声来了。八爷的长工跑出来，把他推到大门外。好丧，你这老鬼！长工恶狠狠地骂了一句。
Our family has. Go. How can I control so much of you? Go for it. Ba Yi, help me. Uncle Yunpu cried anxiously. Our family has. Go. How can I control so much of you? Go for it. Ba Yi, help me. Uncle Yunpu cried anxiously. Mr. Ba's long-term worker ran out and pushed him out of the gate. Morning. You old ghost. The long-term worker cursed fiercely.
随即把大门掩上了。云朴书一步挨一步地走回来，自怨自艾地嘟哝着，为什么不遵照预先想定的那些话，一句一句地说出来，以致把事情弄得没有一点结果。目前的难关。
Then the door was closed. Uncle Yunpu walked back step by step, mumbling with self-pity. Why didn't he follow the predetermined words and say them sentence by sentence, so that the matter had no results at all? Current difficulties.
还有什么方法能够度过呢？走到四方塘的口上，他突然地站住了脚，望了一望这油绿色的池塘。要不是丢不下这大大小小的一群，他真想就是这么跳下去，了却他这条残余的生命。
Is there any other way to get through this? When he reached the entrance of Sifang Pond, he suddenly stopped and looked at the oil-green pond. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't leave behind this group of people, he really wanted to just jump down and end the rest of his life.
云朴婶和孩子们已立在祠堂的门口，盼望着云朴书的好消息。饥饿燃烧着每个人的内心，像一片狂阔的火焰。眼亮红的发了昏，巴巴的还望不见带着喜信回来的云朴书。天哪！
Aunt Yunpu and her children stood at the door of the ancestral hall, looking forward to the good news about Uncle Yunpu. Hunger burns in everyone's heart like a wild flame. His eyes were so red that he was dizzy, and he could not see Uncle Yunpu who had returned with the good news. Oh my gosh!
假如这个时候有一位能够给他们吃一顿饱饭的仙人，静经秃子带了一个满面胡须的人走进屋来，云朴书的心中就像有千万把利刀在那儿穿钻，手脚不住地发抖。
If only there was an immortal who could give them a full meal at this time. Jingqing Baldi brought a bearded man into the room. Uncle Yunpu's heart felt like there were thousands of sharp knives piercing it. My hands and feet were shaking constantly.
眼泪一串一串地滚下来，让进了堂屋，随便地拿了一条板凳给他们坐下，自己另外一边站着。云朴婶还躲在里面没有起来，眼睛早已哭得红肿了。孩子们小的2个都躺着不能爬起来。
Tears rolled down one after another. Rang entered the main room, casually took a bench for them to sit on, and stood on the other side. Aunt Yunpu was still hiding inside without getting up. Her eyes were already red and swollen from crying. The children, the younger two, were lying down and could not get up.
脸上黄瘦的同枯萎了的菜叶一样。立秋靠着门边，少普站在哥哥的后面，眼睛都湿润润的。他们失神地望了一望这满面胡须的人，随即又把头转向另一方面去。沉寂了一会儿。
His face was as yellow and thin as a withered vegetable leaf. Liqiu leaned against the door, and Xiaopu stood behind his brother, his eyes moist. They looked at the bearded man absently, and then turned their heads to the other side. There was silence for a while.
那胡子像耐不住似的。静清，那孩子现在在哪里呢？还在里面啊，10岁，名叫英英姐。秃子点点头，像叫他不要性急。云朴婶从里面踱出来，脚有1000斤重，手中拿着一身补好了的小衣裤。
The beard seemed to be unable to bear it. Jingqing, where is the child now? She's still in there. She's 10 years old and her name is Sister Ying. The bald man nodded, as if telling him not to be impatient. Aunt Yunpu walked out of it. Her feet weighed 1,000 kilograms and she held a pair of patched clothes in her hands.
站立得失掉了主持，一眼看见秃子刚刚喊出一声静清伯，便哇的一声蹦出了2行如雨的眼泪来，再说不出一句话了。云朴书用袖子偷偷地蒙着脸，立秋和少普也垂头呜咽地饮泣着。
I was so scared that I lost the host. When he saw the bald man, he just shouted Uncle Jingqing. And then burst into tears like rain, and couldn't say another word. Uncle Yunpu secretly touched his face with his sleeves. Liqiu and Xiaopu also lowered their heads and sobbed.
秃子慌张了，急急地瞧了那胡子一眼，回头对云朴婶安慰似的说：“嫂嫂，你何必要这样伤心呢？英英同这位夏老爷去了，还不比在家里好吗？吃的穿的，说不定还能落得一个好主子。”
The bald man panicked, glanced at the beard anxiously, turned back to Aunt Yunpu and said comfortingly, Dash. Sister-in-law. Why do you have to be so sad? The bald man panicked, glanced at the beard anxiously, turned back to Aunt Yunpu and said comfortingly, Dash. Sister-in-law. Why do you have to be so sad? Ying went with this Mr. Xia, it's better than staying at home. She has food and clothing, and maybe she can find a good master.
享福一生，贵生家的菊儿临到3家的陶秀，不都是好好的去了吗？并且夏老爷，伯伯，我现在是不能卖了他的。去年我们淘米到湖北，那样吃苦都没有肯卖，今年我更加不能卖了他。
Enjoy your life. Didn't Juer from Gishing's family and Taoxiu from Lin Daosan's family all go well? And, Mr. Xia. Uncle. I can't sell her now. Last year we went to Hubei to beg for rice, but despite the hardship we were not willing to sell it. I can't sell it anymore this year, she.
我的婴儿，我的肉。哦，哦。夏胡子盯了秃子一眼。云仆，怎么，变了卦吗？昨晚还说得好好的。秃子急急地追问云仆叔。话还没有说完，云仆婶连哭带骂地向云仆叔扑来了。老鬼，都是你不好。
My hero, my flesh. Woo. Oh. Xiaohuzi glanced at Baldy. Yunpu. How? Changed your mind? It was said very well last night. The bald man asked Uncle Yunpu anxiously. Before he finished speaking, Aunt Yunpu rushed towards Uncle Yunpu, crying and cursing, old ghost. It's all your fault.
养不活儿女，做什么鸡巴人？没有饭吃了，来设法卖我的女儿。你自己不死，老鬼，来！大家拼死了落得一个干净，想卖我女儿万万不能。妈妈的，你昨晚不也说过了吗？又不是我一个人做主的。
If you can't feed your children, what kind of idiot are you? Trying to sell my daughter without food. Don't die yourself. Come on, old man. Everyone worked hard to get a clean result. If you want to sell my daughter, you must not. Moms. Didn't you say that last night? It's not like I alone make the decision.
秃子，你看他泼不泼？云仆叔连忙退了几步，脸上满糊着眼泪。走吧，静清。夏胡子不耐烦似的起身说。秃子连忙把他拦住了。等一等吧，过一会儿他就会想清的。来，云仆。
Bald man, look at whether she is a prostitute or not. Uncle Yunpu quickly took a few steps back, his face covered with tears. Let's go. Mirror clear. Come. Yunpu.
我和你到外面去说几句话。秃子把云仆叔拉走了。云仆婶还是呜呜的哭闹着。立秋走上来扶住了他，坐在一条短凳子上。他知道这场悲剧构成的原因并不简单。
I'll go outside and have a few words with you. The bald man took Uncle Yunpu away. Aunt Yunpu was still sobbing. Li Qiu came up to support her and sat on a short stool. He knew that the cause of this tragedy was not simple.
一家人足足的有3天没有吃东西了。斗笠没有人要，田中的耕种又不能荒芜。所以昨晚静清秃子来游说的时候，他并没有表示如何激烈的反对。虽然他伤心妹子，不愿意妹子卖给人家。
The family went without food for 3 days. No one wants the bamboo hat, and the fields cannot be left uncultivated. So when Jingqing Baldi came to lobby last night, he didn't express any fierce opposition. Although he is sad about his sister and does not want her to be sold to others.
可是除此以外，再没有方法能够解救目前的危机。他在沉痛的矛盾心理中憧憬一中夜，他不忍多看一眼那快要被卖掉的妹子。天还没有亮，他就爬起来。现在母亲既然这样的伤心。
However, apart from this, there is no way to solve the current crisis. He was in deep ambivalence, longing for the whole night. He couldn't bear to take another look at the girl who was about to be sold. He got up before dawn. Now, since my mother is so sad.
他还有什么心肝敢说要把妹子卖掉呢？妈妈，算了吧，让他们走好了。云仆婶没有回答。秃子和云仆叔也从头门口走进来，大家又沉默了一会儿。嫂嫂，到底怎么办呢？秃子说：“静清伯伯呀。”
Why would he dare to say that he wants to sell his girl? Mom, forget it. Let them go. Aunt Yunpu didn't answer. Bald man and Uncle Yunpu also walked in from the front door, and everyone was silent for a while. Sister-in-law. What should we do? Said the bald man. Uncle Jingqing.
我的英英去了，他还能回来吗？可以的，假如主子近的话，并且你们还可以常常去看他。远呢？不会的哟。嫂嫂，都是这老鬼不好，他不早死。英英抱着四喜儿从里面跑出来了。
My Ying is gone. Can she come back? Yes, if the master is close. Moreover, you can visit her often. How far? No. Sister-in-law. It's all this old ghost's fault. He wouldn't have died early. Ying ran out with Si Sheer in her arms.
很惊疑地接触了这个奇异的环境，随手将四喜儿交给了妈妈，瞪着一双圆溜溜的眼睛四围张望。大家又是一阵心痛，除了静清秃子和夏胡子以外。就是他吗？夏胡子被秃子绊了一下。
I was very surprised to come into contact with this strange environment. He handed Si Sheer to his mother casually and looked around with a pair of round eyes. Everyone felt heartache again, except Jingqing Baldi and Xiaohuzi. Is that her? Xiaohuzi was confused by bald man.
望着英英说，几番谈判的结果，夏胡子1岁只肯出2块钱，英英是10岁，20块，另外双方各给秃子1块钱的介绍费。啊呀，这是一个什么世界呀？ 19块雪白的光洋。
He looked at Ying and said. As a result of several negotiations, Xia Huzi was only willing to pay 2 yuan a year. Ying is 10 years old, 20 yuan. In addition, both parties will each give Baldi $1 as an introduction fee. Ah! What a world this is. 19 pieces of snow white light.
落到云朴书的手上，他惊骇得同一只木头鸡一样，用袖子尽力地把眼泪擦干，仔细地将洋钱看了一会儿。天啊，这洋钱就是我的宝宝英英吗？云朴婶把挂好了的一套衣裤给英英换上。
When it fell into Uncle Yunpu's hands, he was as horrified as a wooden chicken. I tried my best to wipe away my tears with my sleeves and looked at the foreign money carefully for a while. Oh my God. Is this foreign money my baby Ying? Aunt Yunpu gave Ying a set of clothes that had been hung up to put on.
告诉他是到夏伯伯家中去吃几天饭就转来。然而英英的眼泪究竟没有方法止住。妈妈，我明天就可以回来吗？我不要一个人吃饱饭啊！大家都目不转睛地噙着泪水对英英注视着。
He told her that she was going to Uncle Xia's house for a few days to eat and then come back, but Ying couldn't stop her tears after all. Mom, can I come back tomorrow? I don't want to have a full meal alone. Everyone stared at Ying with tears in their eyes.
再多看一两眼吧，这是最后的相见啊！秃子把英英带走，云朴婶真的发了疯，几回都想追上去。远远的还听到英英回头叫了2声：“娃娃，我不要一个人吃饱饭，我明天就要转来的呀。”
Take 1 or 2 more glances, this is the last time we meet. When Bald Man took Ying away, Aunt Yunpu really went crazy and wanted to catch up with him several times. In the distance, I heard Ying turning around and calling twice. Mom. I don't want to eat enough alone. I'll be transferred here tomorrow.
生活暂时的维持下来了，19块钱只能买到2担多一点谷，5个人可够60-70天的吃用。新的出路还是欲靠父子们自己努力的开拓出来。清明跑种期只差3天了。
Life was maintained for the time being. 19 yuan could only buy a little more than 2 loads of grain, which was enough for 5 people to eat for 60 or 70 days. It is up to the father and son to work hard to find a new way out. There are only 3 days left until the tomb sweeping day sowing season.
陇上都没有一家人家有种谷，何八爷特为这件事亲自到县库里去找太爷去商量，不及时下种，秋季便没有收成。大家都指望着何八爷的好消息，不过这是不会失望的。
Not a single family in the ridge grew grain, so Hebei personally went to the county treasury to discuss this matter with his grandfather. If the seeds are not planted in time, there will be no harvest in the autumn. Everyone is looking forward to the good news about Mr. He, but they will not be disappointed.
因为年年都借到了，县太爷自己也明白，官出于民，民出于土，种子不设法，一年到了头，大家都捞不着好处的。所以何八爷一说，就很快的答应下来了，发1000担种谷给曹家垄。
Because I borrow it every year. The county magistrate himself understands, officials come from the people, and the people come from the soil. If the seeds are not taken care of, no one will be able to reap any benefits at the end of the year. So Hebei agreed quickly as soon as he said it. Send 1,000 tons of grain to Ko Jialong.
由何八爷总管。妈妈的种谷11块钱一担，还要4分利，这完全是何八这狗杂种的盘剥。每个人都是这样的愤骂，每个都在何八爷庄上挑出谷子来。生活和工作。
Hebei is in charge. Mom, it costs 11 yuan per load to grow grain, and you still get 4 cents of profit. This is completely exploited by the bastard Heba. Everyone was so angry and scolded, and everyone was picking out the millet in Heba's village. Life and work.
加紧地向着农村中锤击起来，人们都在拼命地挣扎，因为他们已将一切的希望完全寄托在这伟大的秋收。第4章，插好田，刚刚扯好2头草，天老爷又要和穷人们作对。
We intensified our attacks on the countryside. People are struggling desperately because they have pinned all their hopes on this great autumn harvest. Chapter 4. After planting the fields and pulling out the 2-head grass, God wants to go against the poor again.
一连10多天不见一点妈妈雨，太阳悬在空中，像一团烈火一样。田里没有水了，仅仅只泥土有些湿润的。卖了女儿，借了种谷，好容易才把田插好。云朴书这时候已经忙碌得透不过气来。
There was no light rain for more than 10 days in a row, and the sun hung in the sky like a blazing fire. There is no water in the field, only the soil is slightly moist. After selling his daughter, borrowing grain, and finally planting the fields, Uncle Yunpu was already so busy that he couldn't breathe.
肥料还没有着落，天又不肯下雨了，实在急人。假如真的要闹天干的话，还得及早准备一下哩。他吩咐立秋到戏台上把车叶子取下，修好。再过3天没有雨，不车水是不可能的事啊。
Fertilizer has not been delivered yet, and the weather is refusing to rain. I am really anxious. If you really want to make trouble, you have to prepare as soon as possible. He ordered Liqiu to go to the stage to take off the car leaves and repair them. There will be no rain for another 3 days, and it will be impossible to avoid traffic.
人们心中都祈祷着，天老爷啊，请你老人家可怜我们降一点雨墨吧。1天2天，天老爷的心肠也真硬。人们的祈祷，他竟假装没有听见，仍旧是万里无云。火样的太阳。
People are praying in their hearts, God, please take pity on us and drop some rain. 1 day, 2 days, God's heart is so hard. He actually pretended not to hear people's prayers, and they remained cloudless. The flaming sun.
将宇宙的存在都逗引得发了暴躁。什么东西在这个时候也都现出了由干热而枯萎的象征。田中的泥土干涸了，很多的已经占破了不可弥缝的裂痕，张开着像一条一条的野兽的口。
It aroused the existence of the universe into a rage. Everything, at this time, also showed signs of withering due to dry heat. The soil in the fields has dried up, and many of them have broken open with irreparable cracks, like the mouths of wild beasts.
喷出来阵阵的热气，实在没有方法再挨盐了。张家沱、新渡口都有了水车的响声，禾苗垂头丧气的在向人们中告它的苦况。很多的叶子已经卷了筒。
Waves of hot air spurted out. There was really no way to delay it any longer. There were the sounds of water wheels in Zhangjiachuo and Zindaku, and the seedlings were dejectedly telling people their plight. Many leaves have been rolled up.
去年大水留下来的苦头还没有吃了，今年谁还肯眼巴巴地望着它干死呢？就拼了性命也是要挣扎一下子的呀。吃了早饭，云浦叔亲自监着长车，立秋扛了车架，少普提着几串车叶子。
The pain left by last year's flood has not been eaten yet. Who is willing to watch it die this year? Even if you risk your life, you still have to struggle for a while. After breakfast, Uncle Yunpu personally carried the long cart on his shoulders. At the beginning of autumn, he supported the frame of the cart, and Xiaopu carried a few bunches of cart leaves.
默默地向四方堂走来，太阳晒在背上，只感到一阵热热的刺痛，连地上的泥土都烫得发了烧。哇哇的，怎么这样热？四面都是水车声音，池塘里的水尽量再用人工转运到田中去。
Walking silently toward Sifang Pond. The sun was shining on my back, and I felt a stinging heat. Even the soil on the ground was so hot that I had a fever. Mom, why is it so hot? There is the sound of water wheels on all sides, and the water in the pond is transferred to the fields manually as much as possible.
云浦叔的车子也安置好了，3个人一起踏上，车轮转动着，水都由车厢子里爬出来，争先恐后地向田中飞跑。汗从每一个人的头顶一直流到脚跟。太阳看看移到了当顶。
Uncle Yunpu's car has also been arranged. The 3 of them stepped on it together, the wheels were turning, and the water crawled out of the car box, and they rushed towards the field. Sweat flowed from the top of everyone's head to their heels. The sun has moved to the top.
火一般的燎烧着大地，人们的口里时常有缕缕的青烟冒出，脚下也渐渐的沉重了。水车踏板就像一块1000斤重的岩石，拼性命都踏不下来。一阵阵的酸痛由脚筋传播到全身，到脑顶。
The earth is burning like fire. There are often wisps of green smoke coming out of people's mouths. My feet gradually became heavier, and the pedal of the water wheel was like a rock weighing 1,000 kilograms, which I couldn't step down even with my life. Waves of soreness spread from the hamstrings to the whole body and to the top of the head.
又像是有人拿着一把小刀子在那里割肉挖筋一般的难过。尤其是少普，在他那还没有发育的完全的身体中，更加感受着异样的苦痛。云浦叔又何尝不是一样呢？衰老的几根脚骨头。
It was as sad as if someone was cutting flesh and digging out tendons with a small knife. Xiaopu, in particular, felt even more strange pain in his body that was not yet fully developed. Why isn't Uncle Yunpu the same? A few aging bones of the feet.
本来踏上3、5步就有些挨不起了的，然而他不能气馁呀。老天爷叫他吃苦，死也得去。儿子们的勇气完全欲靠他自己鼓起来。况且今天还是头一次上紧，他怎么好自己首先叫苦呢？
Originally, he could not bear it even after taking 3 or 5 steps. However, he could not be discouraged. God told him to endure hardships and even die. He had to muster up the courage of his sons entirely on his own. Besides, it was the first time today that he was in trouble. How could he complain first?
无论如何受罪，都得忍受下来哟。用劲啊，少普！他常常是这样的提醒着小的儿子，自己却咬紧牙关的用力踏下去，真是痛得忍不住了，才将那含蓄着很久了的眼泪流出来。
No matter how much you suffer, you have to endure it. Work harder, Xiaopu. He often reminded his young son like this, but he gritted his teeth and stepped on hard. It was so painful that I couldn't bear it anymore, so I shed the tears that I had been holding back for a long time.
合着汗珠一同滴下，好容易云普婶的午饭送来了，父子们都从车上爬下来。天啊，你为什么偏偏要和我们穷人作对呢？云普叔抚摸着自己的腿子，少普哭丧脸地望着他的母亲。
It dripped with sweat beads. Finally, Aunt Yunpu's lunch was delivered, and the father and son climbed out of the car. Oh my God. Why do you have to go against us poor people? Uncle Yunpu stroked his legs. Xiaopu looked at his mother with a sad face.
妈妈，我的这2条腿子已经没有用了呢。不要紧的哟，现在多吃一点饭，下午早些回来，气息一会就会好的。少普也没有再作声，顺手拿起一只碗来盛饭吃。连日的辛劳。
Mom, these 2 legs of mine are useless. It doesn't matter. Now eat more food, come back early in the afternoon, rest for a while, and you will be fine. Xiaopu didn't say anything anymore, and picked up a bowl to serve the rice dot. After days of hard work.
云普叔和少普都弄得同跛脚人一样了，天还一样的狠心。1天功夫车下来的水，仅仅只够维持到1天禾苗的生命。立秋算是最能得力的人了，他没有感到过父亲和弟弟那般的苦痛。
Uncle Yunpu and Xiaopu were both like lame people. God is still as cruel as ever. The water brought down by the truck in 1 day is only enough to sustain the life of the seedlings for 1 day. Li Qiu is the most capable person. He has never felt the pain of his father and younger brother.
然而，他总是懒懒的，不肯十分努力做功夫，好像车水种田并不是他现在应做的事情一样。常常不在家，有什么事情要到处去寻找，因此使云普叔加倍的恼恨着，这是一个懒精。
However, he is always lazy and refuses to work very hard, as if driving and farming is not what he should do now. I am often away from home and have to look for something everywhere. This made Uncle Yunpu even more angry. This is a lazy spirit.
忤逆不孝的杂种！月亮从树尖上涌出来，在黑暗的世界中散布了一片银灰色的光亮。夜晚并没有白天那般炎热，田野中时常有微风吹动，外面很少有纳凉的闲人。
Disobedient and unfilial bastard. The moon emerged from the treetops, spreading a silver-gray light in the dark world. The night was not as hot as the day, and there was often a breeze blowing in the fields. There were few people enjoying the cool air outside.
除了妇人和几个孩子，人们都趁着这个风清月白的夜晚来加紧他们的工作。四面水车的声音杂合着动人的歌曲，很清晰的可以送入到人们的耳骨中来。
Except for the woman and a few children. People took advantage of this clear and moonlit night to step up their work. The sound of water wheels on all sides, mixed with moving songs, can be clearly heard in people's eardrums.
夏夜是太适宜于农人们的工作了，没有白昼的嚣张、炎热、喧扰。云普叔又因为寻不着立秋，暴躁的像一条发了狂的蛮牛一样。吃晚饭时曾好好的嘱咐他过，今夜天气很好。
Summer nights are very suitable for farmers' work, without the arrogance, heat, and noise of the day. Uncle Yunpu was as irritable as a mad bull because he couldn't find Li Qiu. I told him carefully during dinner that the weather was very good tonight.
一定要做夜工，才许再跑到外面去。谁知一转眼就不看见人，真把云普叔的肚皮都气破了。近来常有一些人跑来对云普叔说，立秋这个孩子变坏了，不知道他天天跑出去。
You must do night work before you can go outside again. Unexpectedly, he couldn't see anyone in the blink of an eye, which really made Uncle Yunpu's stomach burst with anger. Recently, some people often come to Uncle Yunpu and say, this child has become bad in Li Qiu. I don't know that he runs out every day.
和赖老大他们这班人弄作一起干些什么勾当，个个都劝他严厉的管束一下，以免弄出大事。云普叔听了，几回硬恨不得把衙门都咬碎下来。现在他越想越暴躁，从上村叫到下村。
Let's do something together with the leprechaun and his gang. Everyone advised him to exercise strict control so as not to cause serious trouble. After hearing this, Uncle Yunpu wanted to bite his teeth several times. Now, the more he thought about it, the more irritable he became, calling him from the upper village to the lower village.
连立秋的影子都没有看到，他回头吩咐少普先到水车上去等着他，假如寻不到的话，光老小2个也是要车儿陷水上填的。于是他重新的把牙根咬紧。
Not even the shadow of Li Qiu was seen. He turned around and told Xiaopu to go to the water truck and wait for him. If he couldn't find it, the old man and the young man would have to go to the water tanker to get to the fields. So he clenched his teeth again.
准备去和这不孝的东西拼一拼老性命，又兜了3、4个大圈子，还没有寻到，只好气愤愤地走回来。远远的，忽然听到自己的水车声音响了，急忙赶上去，车上坐的不正是立秋和少普吗？
Prepare to fight for your life with this unfilial thing. After going around in big circles for 3 or 4 more times, I still couldn't find it, so I had to walk back angrily. In the distance, I suddenly heard the sound of my water wheel, and I hurried to catch up. Aren't they Li Qiu and Xiaopu sitting in the car?
他愤恨地说不出一句话来，半晌才下死劲地骂道：“你这狗入的杂种，这惠子到哪里收尸去了？”爹，我不是好好的坐在这里车水吗？立秋很庄严地回答着：“妈妈的。”
He was so angry that he couldn't say a word. After a long while, he cursed with all his strength. You bastard. Where are you collecting the corpses right now? Choke. Aren't I just sitting here enjoying the traffic? Li Qiu replied solemnly. Moms.
云朴树用力地盯了他一眼，随即自己也爬上来，踏上了轮子。月亮由村间升到了树顶，渐渐地向西方斜落，田野中也慢慢地沉静了下来。东方已经浮上了鱼肚色的白云。
Uncle Yunpu stared at him hard, then climbed up and stepped on the wheel. The moon rose from the top of the village to the top of the trees, and gradually set towards the west. The fields slowly became quiet. White clouds the color of fish belly are already floating in the east.
几颗疏散的星儿还在天空中挤眉弄眼的闪动。雄鸡啼过2次了，云朴树从黑暗里爬起来，望望还没有天亮，悠长地舒了一口冷气。日夜的辛劳真使他有些感到支持不住了。周身的筋骨。
A few scattered stars were still flashing in the sky. The rooster had crowed twice. Uncle Yunpu got up from the darkness, looked at the sky and let out a long sigh of relief. The hard work day and night really made him feel a little unable to support himself. The muscles and bones of the whole body.
常常在梦中隐隐地作痛，但他无论如何也不肯懈怠一刻功夫，或说几句关于疲劳痛痒的话，因为他怕给儿子们一个不好的印象。生活鞭策着他劳动，他是毫不能怨尤的哟。
I often feel pain in my dreams. But he would not slack off for a moment or say a few words about fatigue and pain. Because he is afraid of giving a bad impression to his sons. Life spurs him to work, and he can never complain.
现在他算是已经把握到一线新的希望了。他还可以希望秋天到了便能实现他所梦想的世界。现在他不能不很早就爬起来了。这还是夏天，隔秋天，隔那梦想的世界还远着哩。
Now he has grasped a new glimmer of hope. He can still hope for autumn. When autumn arrives, the world he dreams of will come true. Now, he has to get up very early. This is still summer, autumn is still far away, and the world of dreams is still far away.
孩子们正睡得同侏罗一样，年轻人在梦中总是那么甜蜜哦。他真是羡慕着。为了秋收，为了那个梦想的世界，虽然天还没有十分发亮，他不得不忍心地将儿子们统统叫起来。起来哟！
The children were sleeping like pigs. Young people are always so sweet in their dreams. He was really envious. For the sake of the autumn harvest, and for that dream world, even though the sky was not very bright yet, he had to bear to call all his sons, Get up.
立秋，少婆，起来哟！什么事情呀？爹，天还没有亮哩。少普被叫醒了。天早已亮了，我们车水去。刚刚才睡下，连身子都没有翻过来，就天亮了吗？立秋，起来啊！喂，起来啊！狗入的东西。
Beginning of autumn. Xiaopu. Get up. What's going on? Father. It's still dark. Xiaopu was woken up. It's already dawn, let's go to the traffic. I just fell asleep and didn't even turn over, and it's already dawn. Ugh. That's beginning of autumn. Beginning of autumn. Get up. Hello. Get up. What dogs get into?
最后，云朴叔是用手去拖着每一儿子的耳朵，才把他们拉起来的。见鬼了，四面全是黑漆漆的。立秋揉揉眼睛，才知道是天还没有光，心中老大不高兴。狗杂种，叫了半天才把你叫起来。
In the end, Uncle Yunpu dragged each son's ears with his hands before pulling them up. Damn it, it's all dark on all sides. Li Qiu rubbed his eyes and realized that it was not light yet, and he was unhappy. You bastard. I barked for a long time before I woke you up.
你还不服气吧？妈妈的！起来，不知道黑夜里爬起来做些什么事，判死了这条性命，也不过是替人家当个奴隶。你这懒精，谁做人家的奴隶？不是吗？打喝下来。
Are you still not convinced? Moms. Stand up. Stand up. Don't know what to do when you get up in the dark. Even if you risk your life, you will just be a slave for someone else. You lazy spirit. Who is someone else's slave? Isn't it? Threat the crops.
看你能够落到手几粒捞石子。鬼话，妈妈的，难道会有一批强盗来抢去你的吗？ 你这个咬烂鸡把横嚼的杂种！你进来专在外面抛尸，家中的什么事情都不要管，只晓得发懒筋，你变了。
Let's see how many you can get and what you can get. Nonsense. Mom, are there going to be a group of robbers coming to take it away from you? You cock-chewing bastard. You've been just dumping corpses outside recently, so don't worry about anything at home. I only know how to be lazy, you have changed.
狗东西，人家都说你专和颠老戴他们在一起鬼混，你一定便做了什么成党。云朴书气急了，恨不得立刻把儿子抓来咬他几口出气，声音愈骂愈大了。云朴婶也被他惊醒来。
Shit. People say you hang out with the boss and the others. You must have become a party. Uncle Yunpu was so angry that he wanted to catch his son immediately and bite him to vent his anger. The voice became louder and louder. Aunt Yunpu was also awakened by him.
半夜3更闹什么呀，老头子！儿子一天辛苦到晚，也应该让他们睡一睡。你看外边还没有天亮哩，都是你这老猪婆不好，养下这些淘气杂种来。老鬼，你骂谁呀？骂你这偏护懒精的猪婆子。好。
What's the fuss about in the middle of the night, old man? My son works hard all day long, so he should let them sleep. Look, it's not dawn yet outside. It's all your fault, old pig, for raising these naughty bastards. Old ghost. Who are you scolding? I scold you for being such a lazy pig. Good.
老鬼，你发了疯！你饿他们，你把他们一个一个都拿去杀掉好了，何必要这样的来把他们慢慢的磨死呢？要不然把他们统统都卖掉，免得刺痛了你的眼睛。半夜里天南地北的吵死。
Old ghost, you are crazy. If you hate them, you can kill them one by one. Why do you need to slowly grind them to death like this? Otherwise, sell them all, lest they sting your eyes. In the middle of the night, there was so much noise from all over the place.
云朴书暴躁地发了疯，他觉得老婆近来更加无理地偏护着孩子，丝毫不顾及到家中的生计。你这猪婆疯了！你要吃饭吗？你，好，我是疯了。老鬼，你要吃饭，你可以卖女儿。
Uncle Yunpu was so irritable that he went crazy. He felt that his wife had been protecting the children even more unreasonably recently, without caring about the livelihood of the family. You pig woman is crazy. Do you want to eat? You. Okay. I'm crazy. Old ghost, if you want to eat, you can sell your daughter.
现在你又可以卖儿子，你还我的英英来。老鬼，我的命也不要了。啊，好泼的家伙，你妈妈的，老王八，老贼！你自己没有能力就不要养儿女，养大了来给他们作孽。女的好卖了。
Now you can sell your son again. Give me back my ying. Old ghost, I don't want my life anymore. Oh. Such a rambunctious guy, your mother's. Old Wanba. Old thief. If you don't have the ability, don't raise children. If you raise them, you will do them evil. Women are easy to sell.
男的也要逼死他们，将来只剩了你这老王八。我的英英，老贼，你找回来！啊！他连哭带骂的向着云朴书扑来，想起了英英，他恨不得把云朴书一口吞掉。妈妈的，英英，英英。
Men will also drive them to death. In the future, you will be the only one left. My Ying. Old thief, get it back. Oh. She rushed towards Uncle Yunpu crying and cursing, thinking of Ying. She wanted to devour Uncle Yunpu. Moms. Ying.
又不是单为了我一个。云朴说连忙躲开他，想起英英来，眼泪也不由自主地掉下了。还我的英英，你这老鬼！啊！东方发白了，儿子目击一般的站着，听见爹爹妈妈提及了妹子。
It's not just for me. Uncle Yunpu quickly avoided her, and when he thought of Ying, tears fell involuntarily. Give me back my Ying, you old ghost. Ah. Dongfang turned white. His son stood like a wooden chicken. He heard his father and mother mention his sister.
也陪着流下几阵酸痛的眼泪来。天色又是一样的晴和。立秋偷偷地扯了少普一下，提起锄耙就走。云朴书也带着懊恼伤痛的面容，一步一拖地跟出了大门。啊！
I also shed a few painful tears. The sky is still sunny again. Li Qiu secretly pulled Xiaopu, picked up the hoe and rake and left. Uncle Yunpu followed him out of the door step by step with an annoyed and hurt look on his face. Ah.
晨风在田野中掠过，由绿色的禾苗掀起了层层的浪涛，人们都感到一阵清晨特有的凉意。今天车哪一方呢？妈妈的，到画家堤去。第5章，立秋，你的心不成，不要你抬。云朴书顶万民伞。
The morning breeze blew through the fields, and the oil-green seedlings stirred up waves. Everyone felt the coolness unique to the early morning. Which side is the car on today? Mom, go to Huajiadi. Chapter 5. Liqiu. Your heart is not sincere, I don't want you to lift it up. Uncle Yunpu holds the umbrella of all people.
小二八字打锣，吹唢呐的没有，王老大你的唢呐呢？妈妈的，好像是哪一个人的事一样，大家都不肯出力，还差3个轿夫。我来一个，高鼻子大爹，我也来一个。好了，就是你们3个吧。
The second Scar boy plays the gong. Is there anyone who plays the swona? Boss Wang, where is your swona? Mom's. It seemed like it was anyone's fault. No one was willing to contribute, and there were still 3 bearers missing.